Okay, so this show brings up a million kind of ethical problems. We've been presented with a very, very tricky situation here, and so we've got a panel that represents everyone from the artists themselves who created the show to a doctor of theology. We have educators, we have engineers and designers, so that we can get at this from a bunch of different points of view. And we will have time right at the end for some questions. So, and we may, judging on how this goes, you may have questions as we go, and I may need to hear from you.
So this topic for me is one of my favorite arguments for being more optimistic about the future with artificial intelligence than some of the portrayals you see. And I can't take credit for the argument. I first read it in a book by Ray Kurzweil, The Age of Spiritual Machines. But the argument is that, well, yeah, someday we're going to build sentient computers, or as he puts it, we won't be able to prove they're sentient, but they're going to claim they are, and they'll be very convincing.
Oh, wow.
But so we'll have all these legal decisions to make about whether they deserve the same rights as us. But by that point, like we've said, we're so far away from that. Yeah, well, we will get there eventually. We are so much closer to exoskeletons, prosthetics that respond to the signals from your brain, cochlear implants, retinal implants. They're working on memory implants. We are so much closer in the grand scheme of things to that, but that by the time we get to asking the questions, should machines have rights, we're going to be so used to these things as we are now to cell phones.
I've been studying for a long time emotional intelligence, and I think this is a brilliant play, Brian, about the nuances of emotional intelligence, which I'm not sure we're going to get to very quickly with artificial intelligence, because it is so nuanced, and actually we're just waking up to emotional intelligence as human beings.
What is it?
Emotional intelligence actually is a set of competencies, and the first one is self-awareness, and how well do we know ourselves?
Right.
And you can see a lot of struggle here with people trying to know themselves.
We're very far away from what's depicted in the play.
That's what I thought. How far
We're not
away?
even close to that.
But,
Right.
but we can play games better than people. We can see through machines in some instances better than people, in many instances worse than people. We can understand speech just as well as people in many instances.
You're saying we. You're not one of them, are you?
AI people can build systems like these.
Yeah.
But I think that the question of the kind of general flexible intelligence that people have is far away.
I think as everybody's talking through the artificial intelligence piece, and I think with processing and algorithms, it's clearly moving down a path with things that even like Pandora or Google. We're served to search results that are based on things we've done in the learning. Yeah. SoftBank company in Japan has a product called Pepper. It's a small robot that is targeted for emotional empathy with the people and doing these things. I think what the play brought up, which is really an interesting point, is when we get to that threshold that the robot isn't a robot, and you do have that tactical aspect. When she smelled the father at the one point, and that was the trigger piece, right? When we get to a point where cloning and the robot matches, where you tactically, the smell, the touch, the taste is the blend, I think that's where we all are really going to struggle with that. Because up to that point, we still can have that trigger, right? It's a robot. It's just a smart machine. It may be smarter than a human, but it's still a robot. But that point where the emotional senses come into play and you can't determine the difference, I think that's that real struggle point. Now, if that's 30 years or 40 years when that gets figured out, I think that's going to be our big challenge.
What do you guys ask a follow-up to the playwright?
Sure.
From that, because I think we're stopping short with that, because we're talking about function and complexity of a machine. But I wonder, were you trying to get at the interaction between that reality of our wildest dreams of how complex a machine could be, but also the metaphysical reality of where did we come from, and are we eternal beings?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, those are the questions that fascinate me. The technology stuff is interesting as well.
It's a metaphor.
Yeah, well, yeah, and also if we can prepare ourselves eventually, right, and keep ourselves alive longer, which
enhance ourselves.
We're doing over and over, and that's just growing every year. The life expectancy raises. So when does that become problematic? Not just in terms of the population on this tiny marble problem,
Right.
but the problem-solving problem. We learn by problem-solving with each other, and if everything is taken care of, how do we keep learning? How do we keep going? And what is creation then? Because ultimately, too, there is the theory that eventually you can merge. You guys will know way more than me on this, so just shut me up on the way off track here. But, physics being able to energies being able to merge eventually, and this is a very far out theory. It's Kurzweil's kind of everything will merge into this energy. Well, what is that? What is that energy? Physically, literally, the physics of it, and does that have any soul, any religion, any God? He says it. I did this. Man did this. So therefore, it's right. It's even if I came from God, and I did this, then it must be right.
Do we outcreate ourselves? Do we de-evolve ourselves?
In a way, I guess. I mean, what do you guys?
Are we trying to become gods?
Yeah.
Yeah, thoughts on the panel, and Professor Murad especially. Is that a theological conundrum?
Sure, I suppose so. There's a typical ethical objection of playing God that you get. But yeah, I'm not that sympathetic to it, to tell you the truth. I mean, I think as an objection to exploring the world technologically and scientifically, I think we ought to do that. I think we're given reason by God. We're given the capacity to understand the world and to try to improve our lives and make it better, create deeper human fellowship. If technology helps us do that, that's good. So I don't think that, like I said before, there's any blanket reason to be pessimistic about the capacity of human beings to even change the conditions of our own existence in some ways.